The ocean is calm, until memory stirs beneath it. Somewhere beyond the edge of the known world, Plato claimed, there once stood a city of impossible wealth and terrifying power. A civilization that ruled the seas, mastered engineering beyond its time, and vanished in a single night of fire and flood. For more than 2,000 years, Atlantis has haunted human imagination, this myth, defended as memory, and hunted as truth. What if Atlantis was never a fantasy at all? What if it was history, deliberately forgotten? Stay with us until the end and subscribe for one of the most controversial and evidence-driven journeys into hidden history ever told. In the 4th century BCE, Athens was a city obsessed with memory, morality, and decline. Its greatest philosopher, Plato, was not writing fantasy when he described Atlantis. He was writing warning. In his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Plato tells of an ancient account passed down by Solon, the Athenian lawgiver, who learned it from priests in Egypt, keepers of records far older than Greece itself. They spoke of a vast island empire, beyond the Pillars of Heracles, ruling parts of Europe and Africa. Rich in metals, ringed with canals, and powered by laws that once honored the gods. The world Plato describes feels tangible. Harbors crowded with ships, temples glittering with orichalcum, fertile plains engineered with mathematical precision. But beneath this prosperity was hubris. Atlantis, once noble, grew greedy. And when it tried to dominate the known world, something ancient and merciless answered. Plato insists this was no allegory, but a true history, preserved while entire civilizations were erased by floods and earthquakes. If he was wrong, then Atlantis is fiction. But if he was right, then history itself is incomplete. For centuries, scholars dismissed Atlantis as metaphor, yet the details refused to die. Plato gives measurements, geography, political systems, even timelines placing Atlantis roughly 9,000 years before his time, near the end of the last ice age, when massive floods reshaped the planet. Modern geology confirms that period was one of catastrophic sea level rise. Entire coastlines disappeared, entire cultures drowned. And then, in the 20th century, the ground itself began to testify. In the Mediterranean, the Minoan civilization of Crete emerged as a contender. Advanced, wealthy, dominant and annihilated by the eruption of Thera, around 1600 BCE, ash darkened the sky, tsunamis smashed ports. An empire vanished almost overnight. And vibrant frescoes of a maritime power eerily similar to Plato's Atlantis. But critics argued the timeline was wrong. Then came the Atlantic theories. The Azores Plateau submerged volcanic ridges where ancient land once stood. Sonar scans revealing geometric formations beneath the sea. In 1968, the Bimini Road was discovered. Massive stone blocks aligned in a pattern no simple tide should create. Natural formation or engineered remnant. The debate exploded. But danger was closing in on certainty. Each discovery threatened the comfortable boundary between myth and history. And still, no single piece of evidence could stand alone, until patterns began to connect. The true turning point came when multiple sciences converged. Archaeology, geology, climatology, and ancient texts began telling the same story from different angles. Ice core samples confirmed sudden climate collapse events. Underwater ruins were found near cubastone structures at depths that would have been dry land during the Ice Age. Advanced sonar revealed walls, pyramidal shapes, and roads. Meanwhile, ancient cultures across the world, from Egypt to the Maya, shared eerily similar flood myths, all describing a lost golden age, destroyed by divine catastrophe. Plato's Atlantis no longer stood isolated. It stood echoed. The climax of the mystery is not a single ruin, but the realization that Atlantis may not have been one city, but a civilization level wiped from the human timeline. A maritime culture thriving before recorded history, erased so completely that survivors were forced back into the Stone Age. When the floods came, knowledge drowned with them. Writing vanished. Engineering reset. History restarted. And humanity, then, as now, believed itself invincible. What remains today is not a sunken city waiting to be claimed, but a warning carved into the bedrock of memory. Atlantis represents the fragile line between mastery and arrogance. Whether centered in the Mediterranean, the Atlantic, or spread across multiple lost coastal cultures, the evidence suggests Plato was preserving a real catastrophe, not inventing a myth. The real history of Atlantis is the history of forgetting. Civilizations rise, seas rise faster, and when nature reclaims the land, only stories survive. Today, as coastlines shrink and oceans climb once more, Atlantis feels less like ancient history and more like prophecy. Somewhere beneath the waves, stones still wait. And the question remains, if Atlantis could fall, what makes us believe we cannot? Like, share, and subscribe for more hidden history buried beneath time.